century, hundreds of different kinds of animals have disappeared from the wild. This is the story of one of them. The Cape Verde skink was a mysterious relic of an ancient time, cast away on just 2 remote islands in the middle of the ocean. It was also one of the largest skinks, about 1/2 meter in length, more than twice the size of this relative. It lived on the tiny islands of Branco and Raso in the eastern Atlantic. Between them, they were no more than 10 square kilometers in size. Nowadays, they are just rocky, deserted outcrops, but once they were covered in trees and low scrub, including 10 types of mallow plant. Even the sandy south-facing shores had more vegetation than they do today. The skink lived in the shade of these plants, sunning itself on the sand and rock, and burrowing into the ground when the heat became too intense. Like other skinks, it had a stout tail, heavy body and strong legs, but it was unlike them in many other respects. It was closer to its prehistoric ancestors than its modern relatives. There were no large mammals on these islands, no predators, and almost no competition. The skink had had no reason to evolve much, except that it had grown into a giant of its kind. It remains a mystery how it came to reach these islands, so far from any mainland. It must have crossed hundreds of kilometers of ocean. Yet skinks avoid water whenever possible. Some suggest a single specimen floated ashore on driftwood. It must have been a nightmare journey. However they arrived, it happened not long after the disappearance of the dinosaurs. The Cape Verde skink's skin was buff in color, speckled with brown and orange, and covered in over 100 rows of smooth, overlapping scales. Basically, they were vegetarians, although during the breeding season of the leech's petrel, the skinks preyed on the birds, their eggs, and their young. The Portuguese colonized the Cape Verde Islands as early as 1462, treating them like living larders, a source of fresh water and wood for huts and fires. The islands became a staging post for their brave explorations to seek out new lands and bring back slaves. Fortunately for the skinks, the Portuguese preferred the larger, more southerly islands in the group, and at first left Branco and Raso largely untouched. But soon the passing sailors grew weary of the constant diet of fish. They came ashore to see what else they could find to eat. The skinks became a tasty alternative, full of protein. Their downfall had begun. At the beginning of the 19th century, famine hit Cape Verde, and so, in 1833, 30 convicts were banished to Branco and left to fend for themselves. They were the island's first settlers. They survived by eating the skinks, but discovered that their body fat also made a good treatment for cuts and wounds. After a few years, they even started to make money exporting the fat. In the following years, they killed many skinks and cut down all the trees. The subsequent floods and droughts caused soil erosion, and the habitat of the few remaining skinks was washed away. The sightings continued for many years, growing rarer until, in 1940, they stopped. A link with the past was broken, a link in the chain of nature that is breaking all over the world.